Like in the case of 36-year-old Joseph McEnroe, who was found guilty of brutally murdering 6 members of his girlfriend's family on Christmas Eve. McEnroe and his girlfriend, Michelle Anderson, opened fire on her parents and later waited for her brother to arrive, shooting and killing him, his wife, and their 2 young children. The motive behind the gruesome plot was alleged to be Anderson's belief that her brother owed her money. Just when you thought McEnroe couldn't sink any lower, his behavior in the courtroom will leave you stunned. After a more than 2-month trial, in which McEnroe didn't testify, prosecutors sought the death penalty. However, during the penalty phase, McEnroe finally took the stand to plead for a lesser sentence.
What did you do to try to stop this, Joe?
I can't even say now. I tried everything that I could.
Well, why not just walk out the door and leave?
I couldn't do that.
Throughout his testimony, McEnroe remained emotionless, even as he described in chilling detail how he murdered one of the victims.
Then she wasn't moving anymore, and so I went over by where she was, and I told her that I was sorry, and I shot her in the head.
However, a moment of vulnerability emerged when he broke down while telling the court what he saw as he cleaned up the crime scene.
See the emptiness where she should be.
Yet, in a disturbing twist, McEnroe displayed a shocking lack of remorse when he callously remarked that at least nobody suffered.
At least nobody suffered. The way that it is, at least nobody suffered.
Ultimately, both Joseph McEnroe and Michelle Anderson were sentenced to 6 life terms in prison for the heinous murders of Anderson's family members. The severity of their crimes and the impact on the victims' loved ones were reflected in the harsh sentences, ensuring that they would spend the rest of their lives behind bars. However, McEnroe isn't alone in his courtroom actions. Just like what happened in the notorious case of 23-year-old Jaleel Smith Riley, facing sentencing for a crime that shattered the lives of 2 innocent individuals. Nearly 3 years prior, Smith Riley and 2 others approached 20-year-old Portia Brooks and her boyfriend Aaron Martin with the intent to rob them. After demanding money from Martin, Smith Riley shot him in the head, causing permanent brain damage. When Brooks couldn't provide any money, she was also shot and tragically passed away.
There was a guy outside of the car who looked like he was bleeding from multiple spots.
3 days later, following a thorough investigation, Smith Riley was arrested and charged with both shootings. In order to avoid the death penalty, he pled guilty to aggravated murder and attempted murder. Now, he faced a potential sentence ranging from 23 years to life without parole. Before the sentencing, Portia Brooks' family delivered powerful victim impact statements. They expressed the profound pain and emotional devastation caused by Smith Riley's greed.
What I have left because of his greed, his selfishness, his complete disregard of and disrespect of others and life. This is what I have left. I talk to her, I kiss her, I hold her, but as you can see, I get nothing back except the reality that she is gone.
Portia's younger sister also spoke, firmly stating her desire for Smith Riley to receive a sentence of life without parole.
I have to deal with life without Portia, so he should deal with life without parole.
When Smith Riley had the chance to address the court, he was in tears.
Sorry. Go back away. I'm so sorry. This is what I come.
His defense attorney echoed this sentiment.
This is somebody that feels genuine remorse. This is somebody that thinks about this every day, and he knows that he can't go back in time and undo what he did.
Judge Charles Kubicki had the final say, considering the gravity of the crimes committed and the profound impact on the victims' families.
Life without parole has to count for.
When Smith heard the sentence, he slumped to the floor crying. This is Antonio Barbo. Antonio may look young and playful, but his crime wasn't a joke. The 14-year-old collaborated with his friend, 14-year-old Nathan Pepp, to steal money from his great-grandparents' house. It would have been understandable if they needed the money for an emergency. Still, these teenagers stole money to buy pizza and marijuana. Admittedly, stealing is bad, but Antonio and Nathan did not stop at only stealing. Antonio's great-grandmother Barbara Olson was in the house at the time. Rather than threatening violence in return for money, they resorted right to violence, quickly. And not just with the two teenagers' hands, but with the help of a hatchet they found lying around the house. Because the teenagers wanted some pizza and weed, Barbara Olson would be found later in a pool of blood as a result of a hatchet.
She started heading into the living room falling.
And as she was falling, were there any more blows? Did you strike her again?
I hit one more time as she was falling.
The Boyds were arrested and charged with first-degree intentional homicide. Although they were minors, the severity of their crimes meant that they were tried in an adult court. Antonio's family pointed out that he suffered an accident when he was younger, affecting his cognitive abilities. They brought a psychiatrist who testified that a car accident at 10 years old had affected Antonio, making it easy for him to be deceived by his accomplice, Nathan. During his testimony, Antonio also disclosed that Nathan struck his great-grandmother 3 to 4 times during the attack. To make things worse, he revealed that they tried unsuccessfully to put her body in the car's trunk before abandoning it and covering it up in the garage, where it would later be found. Antonio also read an emotional apology, but couldn't complete it as he broke down crying.
No, I don't show my emotions much. I myself am not sure why. But that doesn't mean I don't.
His lawyer finished the statement for him amidst tears. In the end, Antonio was sentenced to life imprisonment, but would be eligible for parole after 36 years. By then, he would be 50. Nathan Papp was also found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment, but will be eligible for parole after 31 years. Antonio's crimes were horrible, but the tears during trial made the whole process sad. This was because he seemed to be really remorseful, almost as remorseful as Ashford Thompson.
I just want to say I'm sorry. I can't apologize enough.
Straight face is not because I just have no feeling or I just hate people. I'm just some kind of cold-blooded killer. I wasn't raised like that.
This is 23-year-old Ashford Thompson. Thompson is in court for the murder of Twinsburg Police Department Officer Joshua Mkhitaryan. In 2010, Thompson took the life of Officer Joshua during a routine traffic stop. Joshua had pulled over Ashford L. Thompson, who was driving into the driveway of his former home with loud music blaring from his car. Mkhitaryan called for backup, but Thompson did not like that. The 23-year-old reached for his firearm and pulled the trigger not once or twice, but 4 times. Officer Joshua was unrecognizable by the time backup had arrived. The incident took the officer's life on the spot. At the time of the shooting, Mkhitaryan's canine, Baggio, was barking in the police cruiser. The scene was chaotic as the dispatcher relayed that Thompson had a license to carry a concealed handgun, but Mkhitaryan never answered. A few minutes later, a 911 caller reported popping sounds that sounded like shots fired. When police officers arrived at the scene, they found Mkhitaryan on the ground. But this is where the 23-year-old showed his lack of intelligence. The officer was found with Thompson's driver's license and insurance card in his front shirt pocket. Mkhitaryan had managed to get one handcuff on Thompson's wrist before he lost his life. Thompson had fled the scene, but was later found at his sister's house with Mkhitaryan's handcuffs attached to one wrist and a gun on the stove. This is where things get emotional. Mkhitaryan's death was a tragedy for his family, including his wife, Holly, an Oakwood police officer at the time, and their daughter, Taya. Mkhitaryan had served with the Twinsburg Police Department for 11 years and was also a part-time officer with the Uniontown Police Department. He was a well-respected community member and a Talmadge High School graduate. During the trial, Thompson felt that he would get the death penalty and often cried, saying there was no point in the trial. He also begged for forgiveness, crying. That didn't seem to help his case.
I just want to say I'm sorry. I can't apologize enough.
Straight face is not because I just have no feeling or I just hate people. I'm just some kind of cold-blooded killer. I wasn't raised like that.
After a long and grueling trial, Thompson was convicted of aggravated murder, escape, resisting arrest, tampering with evidence, and carrying a concealed weapon. The jury recommended a death sentence handed down by Summit County Common Pleas Court Judge Eleanor Marsh Stormer on June 23, 2010. Thompson appealed his conviction and death sentence directly to the Ohio Supreme Court, but was denied. He has been in prison since June 25, 2010, waiting for his day for the Grim Reaper to tap him on the shoulder and tell him his time is up. Ashford should have thought about the punishment before committing the crime. Whether his cries were genuine or not, he deserved the punishment. But it gets worse from here.
At 16, you knew not to keep pounding your fist on that pillow with that little baby's head there.
This is Dylan Schumacher. Dylan Schumacher was just 17 years old. When he was convicted for the murder of 3-month-old Austin, Dylan was supposed to babysit the toddler. Instead, Dylan was arrested for child abuse charges, as well as murder. During the trial, Dylan appeared to show remorse and was wailing in court, saying he was sorry. While some of you might buy these begs for forgiveness, he didn't fool the judge.
I was trying to do something that my father never did for me, and be there. Ashley, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you, son. And you know I didn't mean to hurt you. You just can't accept that, because you know me. You've known me for 5 years. I never would have wanted to hurt Austin.
While in the cell, Dylan bragged on his phone that all he had to do was cry, and the judge would pity him and not give him the maximum sentence.
Will show that you admitted on July 23, 2013, in a phone call to your mother from the holding center, you stated, and I got a quote from the court reporter, "I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me," end quote.
The judge cautioned him for his lack of remorse and attempt to deceive the court. Dylan found himself sentenced to 25 years to life imprisonment.
The court hereby imposes a minimum sentence of 25 years.
There's nothing sweeter than justice being served, like when child molesters react to getting life behind bars. Click here.